Hey, Tom, Mark Malusis, Maggie Gray. Thanks for a couple minutes this afternoon.
My pleasure. How you guys doing today?
Doing well.
We're doing great.
Well. How's the golf game, Tommy?
It's all right. I've been hitting the ball really good lately. I haven't been scoring, so I got about a little over a week, I guess, to get that part figured out.
You sound like the Mets. Hitting the ball.
Hey, they scored big last night, though.
Not scoring. Yeah, you know what? Because obviously, Mets and Braves playing each other, and we're thinking of you all the time when that happens. So, okay, you're looking at. First, let's start actually with the Braves. Early in the year, before the season started, actually, there was a thing called PECOTA, the projections, and they projected that the Braves are going to win. What was it? It was like 88 games?
83, I thought
Something.
it was.
And we're like, this is impossible. The Braves are a great team. They've won the division the last, 3 years. Like, this is off. Yet somehow the Braves just are not off to the start we expected. What's going on with that team?
It's been a little bit of everything. Can't really put your finger on one thing. I think that everybody associated with the team, myself included, as I'm broadcasting games, we keep talking about the proverbial run. They got to get on a run. But they just can't seem to get on that run. And I think part of the problem, which is the case with most teams when they're unable to get on a run, is they haven't had all three facets of their game clicking at the same time. Their pitching struggled early in the year. The offense was okay. The bullpen was great. Then, the bullpen figures it out. The starter's not so good. The offense. So, it's just kind of been that all year long. Going through a stretch right now where the starting pitching has been really good. Bullpen has been really good in good games and not so good in bad games. And the offense has just kind of been, they've had to rely on the home run ball a lot recently for scoring runs. So, it's just been a grind for them to kind of get on that extended run. And not like I talk about, it's not when people talk about getting on a run, it's not going out and winning 15 games in a row. It's going out and winning 4 series in a row. So then you won 12 out of 15 or something like that. And, they really haven't hit on all cylinders. And, again, I said it last night, I'm not sure it's fair yet to assume they're going to. It's a different team this year. You don't have Travis d'Arnaud now because of injury. You don't have Marcell Ozuna because of a whole host of issues. So offensively, those are 2 big bats that are no longer in the middle of that lineup, and they're having to piece it together. So, I don't know how fair it is to expect them to get on an extended run.
Tom, what do you see when you watch this Met team? They're leading the National League East. Runs per game not great. We know how brilliant deGrom is, but I think they're the class of the division. They've got the lead, and the Nats have been hot as of late. But what do you see when you see the Mets, Tom?
They're a scrappy club. Look, first and foremost, it starts with their pitching. Their starting pitching's been fantastic. Anytime you have a guy like deGrom in your rotation, then your starting pitching probably is going to have some good numbers. I believe going into last night's game, their starters had the best ERA in baseball. Their much maligned bullpen from the last couple of years has been really good. So that aspect of their game has been better. And offensively, they do enough, right? They scrape, they grind. For a team that does not hit a lot of home runs, they got a big 3-run home run last night from McCann. So I think it's, as much as the Braves are kind of waiting to see if and when they're going to get on a run, and there's the psychological aspect of that, I think the flip side of it for the Mets, the psychological aspect is they're in first place and they're finding ways to win. And there's no substitute psychologically for a team who's just finding ways to win, because you can pick apart all you want what the deficiencies are, but at the end of the day, if they continue to win games and stay in first place, that goes a long way.
Yeah, we were talking about, and I thought last night was a huge win for that reason. Like, they had lost 3 of their last 4. You're down 3-0 late in the game, and you end up coming back and then holding on to that lead. For this Mets team, that's kind of how it's been. Like, these kind of moments. I think they're a mentally tough team, and they've shown, like you said, the scrappiness. We haven't talked to you about Jacob deGrom and just what he's doing so far this season. And obviously, you're going to see him in this series. What is extra special about deGrom in your mind this year?
When you talk about deGrom, the word that I keep coming up with to describe what he's doing is stupid. It's the numbers he's putting up is just unbelievable, right? And to me, to your point a minute ago, I thought last night was a game for the Braves in the sense that you didn't want to have to go into the two games of this series having to win 2 out of 3 to win a series, knowing you got to beat deGrom. Now, I'm not saying that you can't beat him. I mean, he is human. He's been beaten twice this year.
Sure about
and
that?
the Braves have actually, over the years done pretty well against him. But, it's a tall task to think that you're going to win the last 2 games of a series and one of them is you're going to beat Jake. Now, they still do it. You still have to play the games. But, when you watch him pitch, there's obviously a reason why he's so good. He's special. I mean, there's a ton of stuff in today's game. There's not a lot of command in today's game. Jake has the ability to throw the ball hard, change speeds, and he can dot it up. And, when you're able to do all those 3 things, you're going to be really good. Now, unfortunately for Jake, he's gotten a lot of notoriety, obviously, but he'd be getting a whole lot more notoriety if he had the wins to go along with the way he's pitched. I mean, to look at his win totals over the course of the last couple of years, and you scratch your head as to why he hasn't won more. I mean, why he hasn't. But when you see a guy put up the numbers he's put up, it's unfathomable that he's not winning 20 games a year with those numbers. But look, I mean, to me, the 2 things that are just nuts with him this year, you're a third, almost a half a way through the season. He's going out there with a 0-something ERA and he's lowering it most nights. I mean, it's unheard of this time of year. You might do it early in the year when you don't have a lot of innings. This time of year, it's unheard of. And then the fact that he had, I think last week, it may have changed now, but he had more hits and RBIs combined than runs he's given up. I mean, who does that?
Nobody.
Nobody, right? And people have asked me, is this the greatest run in baseball? And it's definitely in the conversation. I didn't see Sandy Koufax, obviously, in his run. A lot of people will point to that run as one of, if not the greatest in a 4-year span in the game. I think Greg Maddox's run of 4 Cy Young Awards is certainly in the mix as well. But even Jake, what he's doing with some of the numbers that he's putting up now in the middle of what he's doing, I'm not so sure that, aside from the win totals, that even Greg and Sandy Koufax put up some of the numbers that Jake's putting up right now.
Tom, and we're talking to Hall of Famer Tom Glavine.
We just don't recognize wins as a stat in the city.
Yeah,
we've taken them out of that's out of our lexicon.
They're still there. Well, they're still there. Unfortunately for deGrom, I mean, you don't use that as the measuring stick for how brilliant he is. Tom, you mentioned that deGrom is stupid. How good he is. How would you describe what Shohei Ohtani is doing for the Angels?
Probably equally stupid, but in a different way, right? I mean, he's not going out there and doing what Jake's doing on the mound. But the fact that he's going out and doing what he's doing on the mound and doing what he's doing with a bat, I mean, it's the kind of thing that baseball hasn't seen since Babe Ruth. I mean, he's a freak of nature in that regard. There's a lot of great athletes in baseball, but I don't think there's anybody else that can go out there and do what he's doing on both sides of the ball. So it's really a rare thing to see. It's certainly a fun thing to watch. It's a great thing for baseball. I know my son was down in Tampa last weekend and got to go to the Rays and Angels game and got to see him hit a home run. He was so excited. They actually got to see him do it in person. But that's the kind of excitement that he brings to the game. I mean, it's not normal, the things that he's being able to do as both a pitcher and a hitter. And people appreciate that, rightly so.
Yeah, right. And Tom, just a quick follow-up on that. It would be, sometimes guys are instrument of change. Do you think we'll see more when you look at, stateside here, where players will try and be kind of what Ohtani already is here on the major league level?
Look, I hope so. I think you're going to see guys try. If I'm not mistaken, there's a couple guys in Cincinnati that are doing it on a limited basis. Certainly not to Ohtani's level. But yeah, look, I know for me, look, I'm not going to say for a second that I was in the ballpark of Ohtani when I got drafted.
You were a good hitter,
look, I was a good hitter coming out of high school, and it was a big deal for me to give that up and have to focus on pitching only. So. I know like I said, there are a lot of, you look at the college ranks and there's a lot of guys in college that can pitch, they can hit. And I just hope that maybe this does open the door for more teams having an open mind in terms of maybe allowing guys to do it, at least through the minor leagues, right? Why not try it? See if they can do it. And if they prove that they can't, then you make a decision there rather than just, no, we're going to draft you as a pitcher. You can't hit anymore. That's just the way it is. Hopefully teams will start to rethink that a little bit.
Yeah, we're talking to the Hall of Famer, Tom Glavine. I just think that you have franchises that are so worried about injuries. And Ohtani's faced his fair share and had to get the Tommy John surgery. I mean, we see it here with the New York Yankees. They are so afraid of injuries, more to position players than pitchers, but even to pitchers. They're worried about it because they've been bitten by that so many times. You were a big union guy when you were playing. We've talked about this with you in the past, but now with the issue with the foreign substances on the baseball, we're seeing a lot of pitchers who are big union guys like you were, Garrett Cole, Zach Britton, Max Scherzer. They're not happy with how this is going down midseason. Tom, put yourself in their shoes. Would you be kind of, I don't want to say rebelling against this like Scherzer kind of did, but would you be as equally upset about them making these kind of changes midseason?
Probably yes. I think that when I look at this issue, I think some of it I am not on the player's side on this, and I think some of it is. And I would say the big area that I am on their side is just that. It's tough to change something in the middle of a season. Now, I can't even go so far as to say you're changing a rule because it wasn't a rule, but it was an unwritten rule, so to speak, right? Everybody knew it was going on. Everybody's turned the cheek to it. And to now all of a sudden, and I probably shouldn't even say all of a sudden, I'm sure there have been conversations that have gone on for a while now to tell pitchers, look, this is coming if something doesn't change, and nothing changed. So on the one hand, I don't know what else Major League Baseball could do, because clearly this had gotten to the point that it was beyond just a few guys doing a little bit. It's gone beyond that. So that's where I say the players only have themselves to blame for that, right? People knew it was going on. People turned the other cheek, and then they just kept pushing it and went further and further with it to where it got to be such a big deal that baseball had to do something about it. And look, I'm not sure what they could do mid-season other than stop it all cold turkey, because I don't claim to know everything that's going on, but I don't know, and somebody would have to explain it to me, how you can differentiate between spider tack or sunscreen or rosin or all of the above or pine tar. If you think players are frustrated with umpires now and umpires are frustrated with the process, I think that would have made it really worse, for the umpires to have to try to distinguish, well, is this or is this that? At least you've got it to where it's, hey, there's nothing, there's zero tolerance, you can't use anything, and we're going to have to figure it out. But so I get that argument from the player standpoint, the pitcher standpoint. But like I said, I think in large part this was a controversy of their own making, and they've got themselves to blame for that.
No doubt. Continuing to mess with the baseballs, Tom. Your opinion? What should be allowed? Not the spider tack, but I mean, do you pine tar, sunscreen, rosin? I mean, Tyler Glasnow talked about how dusty the baseballs are. He said, I'm not looking to improve spin rate. It's more about grip. From your perspective, Tom, you're a Hall of Famer. What do you think should be allowed, if anything?
And that's a good question. And I'll be the first to tell you, I'm not 100% sure. I think throughout baseball, pitchers have always fought the ability to grip the baseball. I know when I played, we didn't think about it the way guys do today, right? And I shouldn't say that not all guys. Clearly, Tyler Glasnow is saying he's just wanting to do it to have a better control of the baseball, not increase spin rate. That's what we did, right? We tried to hold on to the baseball so we could throw it where we wanted to. We weren't necessarily thinking spin rate, but it obviously had something to do with spin rate. I mean, let's face it. I played in New York, obviously. I pitched in New York with the Braves. I pitched in Chicago. When you go to those places in April, it's cold. Mm-hmm. And everybody knows when your hands are cold and your fingers are slick, it's really hard to hold on to that baseball. So we've always been looking for ways and scenarios like that to hold on to the baseball. So I get that. Again, I think in my day, it was more about the thought process was more, I want to be able to hold on to the baseball so I can throw it where I want to. Now, part of that was I had to have the right spin. I had to have the right all that. So, I mean, that was part of it, but it wasn't forefront, so to speak, like it is in today's game where spin rate is everything. So I think we've always been looking for ways to do that. Now, look, I know guys have tried pine tar. They try sunscreen. I tried sunscreen a few times in bullpens, and I was a guy that I felt like if the ball was too sticky in my hand, it wasn't coming out the way I wanted to. So maybe I was different. I don't know. But look, for me, it was as simple as if it was a cold day and I was having a hard time gripping a baseball, I'd chew some bubble gum that had some sugar on it, and I'd try and get a little tackiness from the sugar in the gum to try and hold on to the ball. So I don't, I guess my point is guys have always been trying to find something. And whether it's pine tar, rosin, sunscreen, that's something that the powers that be are going to have to decide. If there's a way that they can figure out what is what, then they might be able to come up with a solution to say, hey, you can only use rosin and sunscreen, and we have a way to police that. I'm sure they're having those discussions. But, there again, I hear a lot of guys in today's game talk about the baseball. I can't speak to it. I have, doing what we're doing, we really haven't had access to the field for the last year. Mm-hmm. So I haven't put my hands on a baseball. So I don't know how much different they are from when I played or how much different they were from the juice ball era that I was a part of.
Man, it's so funny, like the true confessions that are coming out. Like the guys are just like, listen, I was a sunscreen guy. We know Tom Glavine now is a bubble yum guy. I mean, that's pretty amazing. You actually, unfortunately, you couldn't say that while you were pitching. You probably missed out on like hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars in endorsement deals, Tom.
Probably. I mean, I don't know that it's necessarily would have been illegal, right? I mean, it's just I'm chewing gum, and it's yeah. I mean, it was my saliva. So.
I like that. Was it a flavor, a particular flavor that gave you a little bit more control?
It was those gross little squares of bazooka bubble gum that were,
bazooka.
I know, but
in
the big tub.
Yeah.
Where the flavor's gone after 20 seconds and you got to keep shoving it in your mouth.
Exactly. So you got to keep getting new ones with more sugar.
There you go. Okay. Well, Tom, we know that along with talking baseball with us, and we always appreciate that and your perspective on everything, you're going to be in this big American Century Championship golf tournament. This is the big one in Lake Tahoe that they do, the Celebrity Golf Championship. It's going to be televised live on NBC, NBCSN, Friday through Sunday, July 9th through the 11th, with special Golf Channel coverage. Now, I'm sure you've seen this. Your odds to win this tournament, you're what we call a long shot, Glavine. You're 250 to 1 right now. But
That's all right.
Okay, they won't even see you coming.
That's right.
Do you know who you're playing with? Because this is quite a roster of impressive names.
I don't yet. So I think this is the 5th year that I've played in it. And, typically round 1, it'll be me, Greg, and John, which is always a ton of fun.
Nice.
So predictable, though, isn't it?
I know it is, but it's fun for us. I know it's fun for the crowds to see, the three of us together. And then, typically you're kind of paired according to where you are on the leaderboard after day 1. So usually Smoltzy jumps up towards the top and Greg and I are, gravitating towards the middle somewhere, but that's changing this year. I'm beating Smoltzy.
Oh, there you go.
Right.
Well, I mean, I'd rather take you, Tommy, at 250 to 1. I mean, you look at Kyle Rudolph is 5,000 to 1 to win this.
Yeah, and what's Barkley, like 7,500 or something
He's
like
7,500.
that? 7,500 to 1.
If you had your choice, I mean, there's a lot of different kinds of people. You could play with like Justin Timberlake. You could play with Barkley. You could play with Aaron Rodgers. Like if you could pick anyone on this celebrity list outside of, Maddox and Smoltz, who would you want to play with?
I think Timberlake would probably be towards the top. I think that Aaron Rodgers would probably be towards the top. Patrick Mahomes wouldn't be a bad guy to play with. I think there's always a love affair, so to speak, / respect between musicians and baseball players. It seems most baseball players wanted to be musicians and most musicians wanted to play baseball. So it'd be a good opportunity to pick each other's brain in that regard. And then, Aaron Rodgers is, as good as it gets in football right now. So I'm sure we'd have some good conversations.
Yeah, if you had a last one for me, Tommy, on your golf game, we know how brilliant of a pitcher you were. Are you long off the tee, better in the short game, better with the putter? Where's the strength of Tom Glavine, the golfer?
I would say at the moment it's my driver. Now, I would not say compared to my Saturday morning foursome, I'm long off the tee. Compared to Smoltzy and Mulder and those guys, I am not long off the tee. Those guys bomb the ball. So I would say right now getting off the tee has been my strong suit. It's the scoring irons that have been an issue lately. So I'm trying to get that round it into form before I get out there.